It's almost time for kids' time. We're gonna be late.
It's time to share. There's a world out there looking for a friend like Jesus. It's time to share. There's a world out there. Let's tell him that he loves us so. Let's tell him that he loves us so. Kids time. Kids time. Kids time.
Hi, boys and girls. Do you know what it means to be a martyr? Well, martyrs are people who are willing to die for God or for their belief in Jesus in the Bible. Our Bible story today is about Stephen, who was a martyr for Jesus. It was a very scary time for the early Christians back then because they didn't know who might turn them into Saul and the soldiers. So they had to be very, very careful about anything they said about Jesus. In our story today, two women loved Jesus so much that they openly talked about him, even though they knew that they could be taken to prison and killed. They were really brave, weren't they? Would you be that brave? Yes, I believe you can be that brave if you remember the Bible text that says, if God is for you, then who can be against you? In other words, God is so great, so powerful, and so awesome that he can give us the courage to face anything. So if we believe in God, we don't have to be afraid, do we? I pray that you will always be like the two women in our story today and be willing to share Jesus no matter what. But before we hear our story, let's see what Ranger Rod has to show us today on Nature Time.
Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Nature Time. I'm here in beautiful West Yellowstone, and I've got a friend with me today that you boys and girls are going to want to meet. My friend here today is Rick. He's the pilot of this beautiful helicopter that you see here behind me. And there's some interesting questions that I want to ask him that I'm sure boys and girls would be interested in knowing. And one of them is, Rick, have you ever used this helicopter to rescue anybody or to help somebody, maybe save their lives?
Oh yeah, it's very often that we have to use it for search and rescue work, and we get called out almost every summer for fires.
Fires and search and rescue. That sounds exciting to me. Sounds like adventure. Do you consider your work in this helicopter to be an adventure, Rick?
Oh, sometimes it's kind of adventurous, but it's just a good job.
Or you said that sometimes you fight fires.
Yes.
How would you do that with a helicopter?
I have a long line that hangs on the bottom of the helicopter, and it's got a bucket of water on the bottom, and we can release that bucket and it drops the water as we fly over the fire.
Maybe you could show us, where would this line hook up on the bottom of your helicopter?
We set this out to show you. It hooks up real easy. All we do is take a line, hook it right in the bottom, and it's hooked on just like that, and we take off.
Wow. So if you were on search and rescue and you couldn't reach somebody, you couldn't land in a dangerous situation, on the bottom of that line would be maybe like one of those, what do they call that?
It's just a basket. It's a rescue basket, or a Stokes basket, they call it.
Okay, wow. You know, would you mind taking us for a little ride? The boys and girls would like to see an area maybe that you fought some fire or where a fire is burned. They can get an idea of maybe some area where you've made a search and rescue, or the kind of terrain where a rescue might be necessary. Could you take us up and show us some of that?
Yep, I know a great place we can show you.
All right, fantastic. Let's get in.
Okay.
Woo!
Woo! Look down there, boys and girls. This is just so exciting to see this beautiful landscape from a vantage point very seldom seen. Up here with the bird's eye, I'll tell you, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a helicopter operator. Help put out forest fires, help find people that are lost in the wilderness, or do search and rescue. You know, Rick, I'm seeing all these burned trees down here. A lot of this is lodgepole. How high would the flames be coming if you were flying in here and actually working over this fire with your helicopter?
Well, the flames can come up 100 feet up in the air sometimes if they're really burning.
Wow, so some of this area burned really hot.
Some of this burnt real hot down here.
And so you would use that bucket that we talked about underneath there, and you would dump water. Would you dump it directly on a hot spot, or how would you know where you're supposed to dump the water?
Well, we have ground crews that tell us where they want us to put it, and it benefits them for fighting the fire the best, and that's where we put it.
So they're talking to you through the same headset, the radio we're listening and talking to each other on?
Absolutely.
They're giving you coordinates maybe on your GPS, and they're telling you where to come into. Any other way that they signal where they need that fire, or the water on the fire?
Sometimes they have flagging they put down. If they want a spot hit right on, they can get to it. Other times they just give us directions, clock angles to where to fly, and we fly right to it and drop it when they tell us to.
Amazing. Now, do you ever have to tell them where the fire's at? Do you you do any scouting or?
Oh yeah, for lightning strikes, that's pretty common. If a lightning storm comes through, we'll fly through with our GPS, mark the spots, and then tell them where they are.
Amazing. You know, you were mentioning that sometimes you pick firefighters up out of the forest. What would be the situation with that?
Well, they have jumpers that parachute in to real remote areas, and then they'll fight a fire in a real remote area, and when they have to come out, we have to go get them.
Yeah. Transport. That is absolutely amazing. How would you get their gear out of there?
Well, we have a small cargo, and we stick it all in there, or we stick it in the net and hang it from the bottom of the helicopter and bring it out that way.
That is great. Another way that you can help other people that are in there fighting these dangerous fires, and use a helicopter to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, I would sure like to thank you again for taking us up in a beautiful day like this and helping us to enjoy this beautiful scenery. And, you know, boys and girls, sometimes in search and rescue, helicopter operators, they have to fly into dangerous areas, reach down and help pick up somebody who's been injured or lost on a trail. The Bible tells us stories about when God has sent guardian angels to do that. You know how Philip was transported in the Bible. Different people have been rescued. The Bible says that be careful to entertain strangers because sometimes they're angels that you're entertaining unawares. They get to do this kind of work, search and rescue, all the time. God sends them to minister to us human beings, boys and girls like you, and he takes care of us. And he gets this view. He looks down, he sees us in trouble, just like our pilot Rick might see somebody in trouble or someone that needs help, and he can swoop down with his helicopter and help them out, take them out, rescue them, get them to emergency personnel. God can do that with our guardian angels. This is a great example of how God works in our lives to do search and rescue and help us. Until next time, boys and girls, this is Ranger Rod. Let's all enjoy God's great outdoors. Woo! Oh, look at that up there. Isn't that beautiful? This is great.
When we are afraid, we can remember what God said to Joshua in Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and have a good courage. Do not fear, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, He it is that will go with you. He will not fail you or forsake you.
Welcome to Learning Time. I'm glad you joined us today. By the looks of things, it looks like we're going to get wet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or maybe oily, I don't know, but I'm going to need some helpers. And I have Hannah over here. Now, Hannah, you like the water, don't you?
Yes.
Now, I've heard that you catch things in the water. What is it?
I like to catch crayfish the best.
How do you do that?
Well, I stick the net I have behind them, and then I poke the crayfish with a stick, and the dumb ones float right in. But the smart ones turn, and they keep spinning.
Wow. Hey, that's interesting, isn't it? Wow. And we got Jimmy. Now, Jimmy, you like to swim, right?
Yeah.
Now, where do you swim?
In the pool, mostly.
Mostly. That's cool. And you can float and sink, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you sink?
You let out all the air from your lungs.
That's right. You become heavier, don't you?
Yeah.
And you sink down to the bottom. That's interesting. And we have Michelle, too. Now, Michelle, you know how to float? Do you know how to float?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how would you float? How do you explain that?
Well, you stick your stomach up above water and keep it that way, and then you spread out.
That's right, and you float on top of the water. That's interesting. Well, today we're going to be learning about density, and I need my helpers to come on up here and find some safety glasses over here, and let's see what we can find out. Now, we've got a number of different things on the table. First of all, I've got some water in here. It's just water because we talked about floating in water, didn't we, and sinking in water and catching crayfish in the water. So let's put some water in here. So why don't you pour some water in here? You want to do that for us? Yeah. Pour about maybe up to where my fingers are. Okay, where my fingers are right there with some water. There you go. We're being very careful. Make sure you have permission at home before you do this. Okay. There. And that'll be great, just like that. So that's just water, isn't it? We know a lot of things can float on water. And then the next thing I have right here, Michelle, let me hand you this, and it's corn oil. And we don't, do you ever swim in corn oil?
No.
Oh, man, would that be a mess? Not a good idea. Now, Michelle, I want you to pour some corn oil in here, okay? So go ahead, and when you do that, tilt this right here so it just goes in there. We don't want to mix the water with the oil, which is hard to do anyways. Go ahead and pour some in there very carefully. Doing a very good job. Keep going, keep going. You're doing great. Keep going. Keep going. You're doing fine. Keep going. Keep pouring. Keep pouring. Keep going. We're going to need some more. Keep going. Keep going. And how about right there, Michelle? Whoa. Hey, this is a very careful job. Now you can see a separation, can't you? Yeah. You can see water and then the oil. All right. Now the next thing we're going to do is also a liquid. All right. And let me give you this, Jimmy. Now this happens to be alcohol, right? Like rubbing alcohol. If you ever had alcohol put on your bruises and cuts.
Yeah.
Clean. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Now, Jimmy, I want you to pour that in there. Pour it on this edge so it doesn't mix with the oil. Okay. Just pour it real slowly. Keep going. Keep going. Keep coming. Keep coming. Slow down. No, slow down. You're doing fine. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep pouring, keep pouring. I'm going to tilt it back. Keep pouring, keep pouring, keep pouring. And let's stop right there, okay? Let's stop right there. Now let's take a look. Whoa, can you see some separation? Yeah! That's cool. We have, what's under here? What's at the bottom column? Water. It's water. What's in the middle column? Oil. And the top is? Alcohol. Now we're going to find out what things will float or sink. And this is called a density column. So let's see, what can we do here? Let's try something here. I've got some items right here. What's that in front of you?
Play-Doh.
A ball of what?
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh or clay. Hey, why don't you just drop it? I mean, don't drop it from up here. Put it right there and just drop it down. You think, wait. How many of you think that clay will float or sink in one of those columns? No. Well, okay, well, let's find out. Go ahead and just drop it. Whoa. It hit the bottom, didn't it? It doesn't float on any of those. Oh, here. You know what we got here, Michelle? It's a piece of cork. How many of you think that cork will float? But will it float on water, oil, or the alcohol? Go ahead and just drop it in there. See what we got? And it floats on alcohol. It didn't sink at all. Oh, now, Jimmy, what do we have for you right here?
Sponge.
Piece of bread, actually. Oh. Looks like sponge. Why don't you put it right there in the alcohol? And it's going to float a while till it gets all soaked up, and then it might say, oh, it's going to sink. Oh, looky there. It sinks, but it floats. Hey, and then we have, this is a piece of plastic. Would you put that piece of plastic in there? See what happens to the plastic? And the plastic sinks, but it floats on the oil. And then we have an egg. You want to add the egg to that, Michelle? Just put the egg in there. How many think it'll float or sink? Well, go ahead, let's find out. And see where I go. And I go, whoa, and it went all the way to the bottom. Well, you know, there's different materials that we can float in, and different materials have a different density. The water has a different density than the oil, and the alcohol has even a different density than all two of those. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. I want to thank my helpers. You know, every time we learn more about science, we learn more about our Creator, God.
Saul?
Yes.
We have the chains here. I have my men.
I see the chains.
And you got us out here at the break of day. Now, there better be a very good reason why you got us out here this early.
Just calm down, soldier. There's a good reason.
There better be.
Look at this marketplace.
I see it.
Now, right now, it's not very busy.
No.
And we've got a lot of work to do today, and I want a bunch of people around while we're doing it.
What people? What work?
Listen, I have made a vow. I, Saul, have made this vow to come into this great city of Jerusalem and take and imprison every Jesus believer.
Jesus believer? Every Jesus believer in the city?
All of them. Remember Stephen we stoned the other day?
I do.
Do you want any more children like him growing up preaching this Jesus thing?
No, we don't need any of that.
So I've made this vow. And I have come in and I'm going to imprison and kill every Jesus believer.
Now, wait a minute. I don't have any authority to put anybody to death.
Soldier, you don't, but I do, right here. I have the decree right here, and I want you to go into every house, every nook and cranny and arrest every Jesus believer.
Now that gives you permission. What about us? What covers me and my men?
Look what I have here, some precious stones. Whoa, soldier, not yet. You do your job. You seek out every Jesus believer and put them in jail.
All right, it'll be done as you say, and it'll be done by sundown. But you better have those gems ready for us.
We'll have them. You just go do it. Start with that house.
We're going.
Oh, my precious Jesus. Thank you so much for loving us. I count it a privilege to be counted a believer in you. You know, Lord, the times that we're living in down here, it's just not safe. But truly, if you are for us, who can be against us? Lord, all I ask is that you keep me faithful and that you use me to win a heart to you, Lord. Then it will be worth it all.
Miriam, Miriam, why are you praying? There are guards everywhere.
Oh, there are?
Yes.
What are you doing here?
Please, I must see you. I have something very, very important to tell you.
I'll be right down.
Please, hurry.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Would you like to buy a pot?
Oh, my child, I'm sorry. I just can't right now. I just can't do any shopping.
Are you sure, ma'am?
Yes.
I have very many pots at
Another
bargain
time,
prices.
my heart is heavy right now. Oh, pardon me. Oh,
what is it? What happened?
Miriam, I had to tell you, something has happened. Something has happened.
What do you mean?
Well, you know
is your family okay?
No, my family's okay, but you know how I go to temple, I listen to the priests, but I come out feeling empty, just empty.
Yes.
For years now, Miriam, for years. And I just don't know what to do.
You need Jesus. You need Jesus.
Jesus?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, that's what you need.
Well, I've got to tell you, something did happen, and that's why I'm talking to you. I went to Jerusalem.
Yes.
And I saw Stephen. He was being stoned.
You were outside the gate.
I was kind of hiding.
You.
Yes, I know. I was afraid to be out there. But you know what really got to me was
what?
On his face, it just shone brightness and peace and love. And you know what he said as he was being stoned? He said, "The gates of heaven are ajar." And he saw God the Father and the Son right sitting at the side of him.
He saw Jesus.
He saw Jesus.
And I heard him say, "Don't lay this sin to them." And then he said, "Father, receive my spirit."
He did.
And he died.
I know.
But he wasn't afraid because he had Jesus. You know why? Because Jesus told us how much God loves us. He said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him," we're the whosoevers,
yes,
"might not perish, but have everlasting life."
I want that. I want that with every fiber in my body. May I have that?
Yes, you can have it now.
Oh, Caesar!
Hurry, up here.
Put him in jail! Put him chains on him.
It's okay. Jesus will be with you.
I want him killed!
No one can.
boys and girls, it's time for Miss Brenda's Book of the Day. And today's book is an exciting book called Alice Says Goodbye by Sandy Zogg. And it's a wonderful story about Alice and her parents who are going to the mission field to China. And you will not want to miss every exciting detail of this book. Something else you won't want to miss is our wonderful guests we have today. We have with us Samara and Chelsea. And I'm so excited that you are with us today. And you have recently done something really special to share Jesus. And I can't wait for you to tell the boys and girls, what is it?
Well, we both went to Oshkosh Camporee Kyrgyzstan 2009 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And we did Locks of Love.
Locks of Love. Now, when you say you did Locks of Love, Samara, what is Locks of Love?
It's something for people who lost their hair to surgeries of diseases. And we cut our hair to make wigs for them.
It makes wigs for them. And did you know that Locks of Love only, it's a children's ministry. It's to just make the wigs for children. Did you know that? Not adults, it's for children. And I really, I love this organization. So now tell me, how did you get the idea? Did you just walk in and go, oh, I think I'll give my hair today? What made you decide?
It made me decide because I thought, wow, these kids, they lost their hair through treatments of specific diseases, and I thought maybe it would give them hope that with these wigs that you don't have to go through this suffering alone, that Jesus can help you.
That's right. And it's mostly girls that are benefiting from these wigs. You know, it might be somebody even your age, but somebody that's going through cancer treatment and they might lose all their hair, or there's a disease called alopecia, where you lose all your hair. And so these wigs, can you imagine not having any hair, girls? Wouldn't that be kind of embarrassing, and wouldn't you be worried about how you looked? So this is a wonderful outreach and ministry, isn't it? I'd like to show a picture if we could. Chelsea will show Chelsea first. We have a picture of you right here, right before. This is showing right here before you get your hair cut, and with the lady that's going to cut it. And now here's a picture of Chelsea afterwards, and you're actually holding your hair here after it's been, they put it in a ponytail, right? And then Samara, we have a picture of you as well. We have a picture of you actually, she's right in the process of cutting your hair. And you can see that, she's cutting it off. And then another picture, you're holding it up, and you don't look like you're crying. How did that make you feel when you got your hair cut off? Because first they cut it off, and then they put a ponytail on it. And then, how did that make you feel afterwards?
It made me feel happy because I knew I helped someone to have something to cover their head when it's cold in winter and hot in summer.
Also, and just to also how they look. It makes somebody feel good about themselves if you have hair. If you just had a bandana around a bald head, it would make you feel differently, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, and is this something you'd recommend to your friends?
Yeah.
Have you talked to any friends about it, or do you have any friends that you think we're considering?
I probably have my best friend Vinoshi in Pennsylvania. I'm sure that she would consider it because I think she did it before and her hair is growing long, so I hope she does it again.
That's awesome. Have you both thought about doing it again yourselves? Is that something you do?
Yeah.
So you're going to grow, how long are you going to grow it this time?
Probably up to here this time.
Up to there, so that you can grow it a little bit longer and that you can do that. Well, I think that's a wonderful way to share Jesus, don't you, boys and girls? I think that is such a very selfless thing to do, and doesn't cause you any pain to do that, but yet it helps so many other children, and I think that's wonderful. Well, would you guys like to stay and help me read some letters? Sure. I've got some letters in here, and boys and girls, I love getting letters from you. I love all the letters, and when you write and tell me how you share Jesus, that's my favorite, and I also like it when you send pictures, because I like to see what you look like. This letter here is from Jamaica, and let's see what this letter says. It said, "Dear Miss Brenda, how are you? I hope you are fine. Thank you for sending me the kids' time lessons. I really love them, and I'm trying to share Jesus by handing out magazines about Jesus. Please pray for me because we all need prayer, and I need prayer too. May the Lord bless you in kids' time. Always remember that I share Jesus. Love, Danielle." Well, Danielle, thank you for your letter, and I'm glad you're sharing Jesus all the way over in Jamaica. Let's see, we've got a letter over here. And this one says it's from Madison and Jackson. And let's see, oh, they've got a beautiful card here and a couple of letters. And Oh, we've got a picture. So can you hold this up for me, Samira, please? And this letter says, Dear Miss Brenda, my name is Jackson and I'm 8 years old. My favorite part of kids' time is story time, and I show that I love God by being quiet in church. Love, Jackson. And then we have another one that says, Dear Miss Brenda, my name is Madison and I'm 10 years old, and I share Jesus by singing scripture songs and teaching them to my friends, and I love singing for Jesus. Love, Madison. And she's got a beautiful card here I want to show you, boys and girls. Isn't this gorgeous? And she made this card. Isn't it beautiful? Well, I just want to thank you so much for that. I think we might have time for one more letter. Let's see if this one is from Brittany, and she's from Ohio. And Brittany's got a picture here. Can you hold that up for me too, please? Dear Miss Brenda, my name is Brittany and I love Kids Time, all of it. I share Jesus by buying Kids Time DVDs and I share them with all my friends. I love Jesus, Brittany. Thank you, Brittany, so much. I want to thank you, Samara and Chelsea, for being with us today on Kids Time. I want to encourage you to keep sharing Jesus with all your friends. Will you do that? Boys and girls, you do the same. It's Kids Time to share Jesus.
In this helicopter to be an adventure, Rick?
Oh, sometimes it's kind of adventurous, but it's just a good job.
You said that sometimes you fight fires.
Yes.
How would you do that with a helicopter?
I have a long line that hangs on the bottom of the helicopter, and it's got a bucket of water on the bottom, and we can release that bucket and it drops the water as we fly over the fire.
Maybe you could show us, where would this line hook up on the bottom of your helicopter?
We set this out to show you. It hooks up real easy. All we do is take a line, hook it right in the bottom, and it's hooked on just like that, and we take off.
Wow. So if you were on search and rescue and you couldn't reach somebody, you couldn't land in a dangerous situation, on the bottom of that line would be maybe like one of those, what do they call that?
It's just a basket. It's a rescue basket, or a Stokes basket, they call it.
Okay. Wow. You know, would you mind taking us for a little ride? The boys and girls would like to see an area maybe that you fought some fire.
It's almost time for kids time. We're gonna be late. It's time to share. There's a world out there looking for a friend like Jesus. It's time to share. There's a world out there. Let's tell him that he loves us so. Let's tell him that he loves us so. Kids time. Kids time. Kids time.
Hi, boys and girls. Do you know what it means to be a martyr? Well, martyrs are people who are willing to die for God or for their belief in Jesus and the Bible. Our Bible story today is about Stephen, who was a martyr for Jesus. It was a very scary time for the early Christians back then because they didn't. Before we hear our story, let's see what Ranger Rod has to show us today on Nature Time.
Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Nature Time. I'm here in beautiful West Yellowstone, and I've got a friend with me today that you boys and girls are going to want to meet. My friend here today is Rick. He's the pilot of this beautiful helicopter that you see here behind me, and there's some interesting questions that I want to ask him that I'm sure boys and girls would be interested in knowing. And one of them is, Rick, have you ever used this helicopter to rescue anybody or to help somebody, maybe save their lives?
Oh yeah, it's very often that we have to use it for search and rescue work, and we get called out almost every summer for fires.
Fires and search and rescue. That sounds exciting to me. Sounds like adventure. Do you consider where a fire is burned, they can get an idea of maybe some area where you've made a search and rescue, or the kind of terrain where a rescue might be necessary? Could you take us up and show us some of that?
Yep, I know a great place we can show you.
All right, fantastic. Let's get in.
Okay.
Woo!
Woo! Look down there, boys and girls. This is just so exciting to see this beautiful landscape from a vantage point very seldom seen. Up here with the bird's eye, I'll tell you, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a helicopter operator. Help put out forest fires, help find people that are lost in the wilderness, or do search and rescue. You know, Rick, I'm seeing all these burned trees down here. A lot of this is lodgepole. How high would the flames be coming if you were flying in here and actually working over this fire with your helicopter?
Well, the flames can come up 100.
Know who might turn them into Saul and the soldiers. So they had to be very, very careful about anything they said about Jesus. In our story today, two women loved Jesus so much that they openly talked about him, even though they knew that they could be taken to prison and killed. They were really brave, weren't they? Would you be that brave? Yes, I believe you can be that brave if you remember the Bible text that says, if God is for you, then who can be against you? In other words, God is so great, so powerful, and so awesome that he can give us the courage to face anything. So if we believe in God, we don't have to be afraid, do we? I pray that you will always be like the two women in our story today and be willing to share Jesus no matter what. But before